You're tuned to Radio Caroline on 199, your all-day music station.
Radio Atlanta, on our very first day, our Champers Day, bringing you brighter broadcasting and the finest sounds around.
Within the next few minutes, some lucky Radio Caroline listener could win as much as 1,560 quid.
This is Radio Caroline International.
This is the new Radio Caroline.
Mi amigo, mi amigo, mi amigo.
Radio Caroline.
This is not just a story about a radio station. It's about an idea that revolutionized the structure of radio in the United Kingdom and influenced the development of the British record market. It's a story about disc jockeys, engineers, pop groups, advertisers, and millions of radio listeners. For this is the story of Radio Caroline.
Caroline, the sound of the nation. Caroline, the sound of the land. Caroline, the sound of the nation. Caroline.
The man who started Radio Caroline was an Irish businessman. His name, Ronan O'Rahilly.
I had been involved in the music business quite heavily. I got involved with, in fact I remember it well, I was involved in the club game, and then a friend of mine, a guy called Giorgio Gomelski, came to see me and said, come and listen to a band, you know. So off I went and I listened to a band called Alexis Corner Rhythm and Blues Band. And in that band there was Charlie Watts on drums, later joined the Stones. There was Jack Bruce. Ginger Baker joined the band when Charlie Watts left. But that was how I first sort of got a taste of the music scene. I discovered then that when I brought another artist I was working on called Georgie Fame, I brought a recording of Georgie around to a number of the record companies. In fact, a number. There were two record companies that counted then, EMI and Decca, and they had a total monopoly of the industry. They owned the distribution outlets, and they controlled, as I later found out, they controlled every piece of airtime on Radio Luxembourg. I mean, 70% of it. There were two other small companies, Pye and Phillips, who had, I think, between them about 12% of the market or something, because they had a little bit of airtime on Luxembourg. They had about equivalent amount of time. And no other record company could break that. I mean, it was an absolute solid monopoly. So I went to the two companies, EMI and Decca, with the recording of Georgia, and I was told them, both places that it was too early for coloured singers in Britain, which I was amused by, considering he was a Lancashire lad. Anyway, I then decided, right, I'm going to record him myself and go that route. I wasn't conscious at all, by the way, at this point of the monopoly. I just thought they just happened to be four record companies, and I didn't tie up anything else with it until I found myself sitting in Luxembourg with an acetate of Georgie and asking the then Luxembourg people, how many plays can you give me on this artist? I'm going to bring it out on my own record company. And the guy sort of almost fell off the chair laughing, that anyone could be so ignorant or naive or whatever you like to call it. And he showed me these charts and wallboards on the wall with EMI show, Decca show, EMI show, Decca show, EMI show, Decca show. I mean, it was just absolutely, and then a tiny little pie show and a tiny little Philips show down at the end, So that virtually the entire Luxembourg airtime. So I went to the Beeb then, and the Beeb said they only played established artists on their one program a week or whatever it was. I can't even remember now. But I know they had, I think, a Top of the Pops show and one or two other shows. I mean, there was so little exposure in the UK at that time. I mean, during the day, you just couldn't hear pop music. I mean, it was just barren, We went on and, at this point, and I thought to myself, my God, this is... And I remember sitting to the guy, because my mind just worked logically. And I said, well, look, if that is the case, then obviously the next step is to, if you're not going to give me airtime, the next thing is to start a radio station. The next logical... as you go through each stage, you have an artist that you think should have exposure. You go to the first stage and you find that the record companies don't want it, so you have to start your own record company. And then you find that if you have your own record company, nobody will play the thing because it's all tied up in a monopoly situation. You go to the next step, which is you start a radio station. And I said it to them there in that very morning. I mean, I wasn't sort of thinking about it for 6 weeks. I just said, bang, bang, that's what you've got to do.
Caroline, the sound of the land. Caroline, the sound of the nation. Caroline!
I was very plugged into the Kennedys, right? I was a big, big fan of the Kennedys. From 1959, when I first sort of saw John Kennedy on television, dialoguing and laying down just the whole vibe of him was got me like it got millions of other people all over the world. And I remember traveling across to the States to buy the transmitter gear. And I remember having this Look magazine or Life magazine, and there was a picture of Caroline Kennedy disrupting government. I remember that was she was in the cabinet room or in his office or something. There was a meeting going on, and she sort of climbed out from under the desk and disrupted everything, right? And instead of Jack Kennedy sort of having one of his aides, get rid of her, I'm in an important meeting, he got involved with her, leaving, all these serious, powerful men sitting around twiddling their thumbs. That was the story behind that. And the photograph that actually they had spread across the page, if I remember, was her climbing out from under the desk, sort of all smiles, and the headline was Caroline, upsets the apple cart, I mean, that kind of imagery. It was the smile, the whole idea of the whole Kennedy kind of idea, which was to break new ground, to open new, to expand, etc. To, just a whole kind of the best of free enterprise with a lot of soul, In other words, that combination, which I think, I've always thought was a very healthy combination. And it was just that whole imagery, and it was the headline, the Caroline thing, and I said, bang, that's it.
Caroline, sound of a nation. Caroline, sound of a land. Caroline, the sound of a nation. Caroline.